Hello, what is your name and what classes do you teach?
Hi, my name is Mr. Phillips.
My name is Miss Kong,
My name is Miss Dent.
I'm the band director here at San Leandro High School.
and I teach orchestra and a few college and career classes.
And I teach choir, show choir, and notables at San Leandro High School.
So, my first year I started with very minimal students. My first class, my first wind ensemble class had 7 students in it. Luckily, they were very motivated. They were very enthusiastic, and they have most of those students have become sort of the core members of my bands now, being in multiple ensembles. And so I don't want to say that I've had difficulty. Students gravitate towards people that are A, fun, B, nice to be around, and
So I have a few who are very outward with their emotions about music, and I love that. Right now I'm seeing more students who do care about the music, but I think it's kind of hard for them to express it at the moment. I don't quite know if that's our choices of music, or if it's maybe even the time of day, especially because it's in the morning, so we have zero period.
I would say that I have passionate students in my class. My classes are smaller, but I find that they make up for it in passion. I have students that show up at 7:30 in the morning to sing and dance, and they put everything into it. I have students in notables that will run an entire concert by themselves. I find my students incredibly passionate.
I would say the first thing is there's definitely a dip in playing ability. It's probably a little bit COVID. It's probably a little bit social media and technology the way it is, although it's an amazing resource. Being that like YouTube and all of these other sites, they're great resources, but it's almost too easy in that like you're given so much that you don't have to work as hard. And I think the expectation is I don't have to spend as much time doing this, working and having that ethic to get to that next level. So
There are a few students who understand how to read music, and are very thorough with how they understand the process of getting there. There's a good amount who don't have that in their skill set right now. So at the high school level, it should be standard that students know how to read the notes, know where it is located on their instrument, and other skill set techniques required for their instrument, and we're kind of losing that. I think that could be because of many students missed the in-person time. I know that our middle school had a few or a couple of teacher changes, and so all of us teachers have a different way of how we teach things, including the teacher who was here before me.
We just had a concert where we had fourth grade through 12th grade performing together, and I always love to see younger students performing. I think it's vitally important that students start performing as young as possible so they get used to it and they get to experience it. I love their enthusiasm when they perform, and it's so much fun to watch them grow as performers, especially when you see them starting at a young age and you get to see them perform all the way through high school. You get to notice their maturity level change.
there's probably a couple of reasons. Personally, I think the main challenge that I faced was getting rid of the stigma of band, specifically marching band. I think It's gotten a bad rep. If you look at media, if you look at movies and television shows, it generally paints band members to be like nerdy and geeky. And, in today's world, that actually has flipped a little bit. The nerd of yesterday is sort of the popular kid now, in that the content that we're listening to, what's popular now is sort of like anime, which wasn't popular back then, or like superheroes, which was, like a reason you would get beat up at school, right? So it's not, it doesn't have that same problem. It was just beating that stigma. Is marching band cool? And if
Actually, I do. So I have this one student who's not in orchestra, and they were like, okay, I want to join orchestra, like, oh, tell me about it. I'm just like, okay, since you don't have the previous knowledge for it, I want you to know you're going to have to put in a little bit more effort than your peers. Their response was, no thank you. And so that was kind of mind-boggling to me. It's like, oh, okay, so did you think that it's going to be easy to kind of get into it? What we're missing right now, for those students who are kind of avoiding it, it's hard because a lot of the things we learn, we start younger. The program begins in 5th grade right now. And some students who don't have that 5th grade chance, when they go in middle school and they want to join, sometimes they feel afraid. And so then they miss their chance. And then when they get to high school, they have an open slot and they're like, but I've always wanted to do orchestra. And now that they're about 3-4 years behind from their peers, it's the idea that you have to work for something right now. And I see that very common in the younger generation. In not exactly my orchestra class, but obviously this is music, but my college and career classes, it's a lot of, do we have to do this? How much of the work do we have to do in order to get a good grade? And I think that mindset kind of travels throughout that 9th grade and younger generation right now. Part of that could be social media. Part of that is having online classes, instant gratification of things like how we scroll through social media. It's fast, quick, and maybe they think that applies to real life as well. And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way with music.
I'm not sure that it's so much avoiding as time. I think a big part of high school is getting all your requirements done, which is important, but it doesn't leave a lot of time for the extracurricular classes. So I think maybe they're not as open, but it also could be a scheduling requirement when you have to have all the classes that you need to have to graduate, which is important.
The people far below are sleeping as we flow. Untold very times, I'm riding in the midnight I'm finding I can fly so high above with you.
%. You just don't know until you try it. And I think a lot of people want to judge too quickly. And even if they try it, some people try for a day, and they're like, oh, this is not for me. And it takes more than a day to realize the potential of an activity, right? It doesn't happen in a day. In fact, most people, just for the sake of committing to something and following through on that project, should do at least a year. Try a year, even if it's 5th grade choir. Which, hey, I was in choir too, so I get it, right? And it has its stigmas as well. But if you just try for a year, follow through all the way to the end, who knows? You might have that potential. In the real world, in the workforce, if you can't finish a job, you don't get hired, right? They're judging you based on whether you can complete a project from start to finish. That's a huge aspect of it. And that's what performing arts teaches you. It teaches you to follow through with a commitment and put the work ethic in, put the time in, practice, rehearse, collaborate with others. These are all skills that are useful outside of performing arts. That's why people need performing arts, because you learn these skills that you won't learn in a math class. You might not learn in an art class, where most of art is more like solo, by yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Music from the very beginning. Even though music is not something that everyone can be passionate about, it's still going to be there every single day. We hear music outside, we hear music in the community, we hear music in the store, on the car radio, we hear it, our friends singing our favorite popular song or something like that. It's always going to be there, and so the door is never closed. I think that as a music department, we can continue opening that door by making sure that we're talking with our schools and kind of advertising that music can be for everyone. It's one of those general classes where it's like anyone can understand some form or aspect of it. Especially because with music, there's so many different things within it. There's the history, there's the technique, there's the performance, there's even how people understand, there's physics in it too, and there's so many content and topics within music that it's not closed for anyone at all, it's open. And I think anyone should strive to continue music throughout school, even if they're not as interested. I'd prefer someone to start it at first and then realize if it's for them or not in the performing aspect.
Absolutely. I think students should start performing in first grade. When I taught elementary school, I had students performing in first grade through fifth grade. I think that's where you get to foster the love of performance and the love of your art, whether it be singing or anything else.
Picaron las manos, manos de mi corazón. Alegría, 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 alegría que va a ser esta noche,
Yes, with the with one thing in mind, in that you don't know where you belong right away. You don't know where you're going to fit in. You might fit in. You might fit in with jazz. Jazz might be your thing. You might fit in with wind ensemble. You might fit in with orchestra or choir, or maybe marching band is your thing, right? Like, they're very different personality types. The people that join jazz are very different from the people that join choir. So you want to join one, but you also want to keep in mind that you need to gravitate towards the people that you're going to collaborate well with, because it's a sport, right? It's a team thing. It is something that you have to work together on. Our finals are a concert. You don't show up for the concert, you don't pass your final. That's just the name of the game, right? If you were to join the workforce, if you were to go being a gigging musician outside of school, you need to follow through. You're not going to get paid for the gig you don't show up to, right? That's just kind of, and again, you got to find where that might be. In jazz, we don't just do old swing and blues, we do Latin stuff too. We do salsa, we do mambo, we do cha-cha-cha, all these other genres within Latin music too. It's not solely jazz, and I think jazz is a bigger term. That's something that I illuminate in my in music appreciation class for people who just don't know about it until somebody tells you. So
Yes, I would recommend a music class. Absolutely. Which one? For those who are new to music, we are fortunate to have a class called Music Appreciation. Right now, Mr. Phillips teaches that. Last year I taught it as well. But there are different pathways within it. And so we make it so that it's kind of open for possibilities. There was no curriculum with it, so Phillips had his own, and I continued to expand on it as well. Pathways. So we learn about the history first, about the different areas, origins of music. We learn about the instrument origins. We learn about the different types of instruments, and then students can delve into, again, pathways. I said that like 5 times. But one is researcher, where they continue research about artists, about music, about the history of things, about specific instruments even. Then there's performance. Students can choose to learn an instrument, so maybe someone will pick up a guitar, maybe someone will pick up the violin, or they'll pick up the trombone. And we've already seen that. Mr. Phillips might say it, but he's had a few students who was in his music appreciation class who are now in his band class.
Absolutely, 100%. I think absolutely everyone should be in a music class, whether it choir, band, or orchestra, or anything else. Even if we would have like piano class or something, everyone should be involved in music somehow. It's good for the soul.
Very much so. I agree.
Mysterium et admirabile sacramentum ut animalia tenet Dominum iascentem in praesepio.
Yes, I think COVID set a very strange expectation.
Absolutely. Number one, if you notice how ensembles are, we work together in a group with everyone in the room. Unfortunately, when things went online, students were separated from each other. They didn't get access to instruments. They weren't given information that these were classes to take, especially because it's an elective. And it's just hard to conduct a music class that is performing through online methods. And I've experienced that myself when I was going through my undergrad, and we had band online. That does not work out. One time the teacher was like, okay, let's all play together. Obviously that's not going to work out. I've had lessons where I had to do online. That doesn't work out because you don't get the full quality of the sound. You can't explain things that can't be explained except for by modeling sometimes.
I think COVID had a huge impact on choir. Before COVID, I had quite a few students joining me, and they would stay with me through 12th grade. And when COVID hit, I lost a lot of students. When COVID hit, the 4th graders who were just starting to join choir were singing online. And we all know that's not the best experience. And so there's been a huge hole in students coming through my program. And if that's your first experience singing by yourself into a microphone, sitting at home, that's really not what a choir is. The beauty of a choir is that you are singing together with people, and the friendships and the beautiful music that you hear around you, and not just singing to your phone by yourself. And so I think it's had a huge impact, and I think choir is still feeling that impact, because if that was your first experience with choir as a 4th grader, you're now in 9th grade, and you've missed that gap. You've missed that through line where you love performing, and we didn't get to perform in COVID either, right? So you've missed that through line, and it's easier to be in choir, I think, when you've gone all the way through. Not that you can't come in like 12th grade and join choir and have a wonderful time, but if you don't sing when you're younger, sometimes you don't want to sing when you're older. So if you continue singing as you are growing up, you will probably sing for the rest of your life.